Hey everyone, in this video, we'll go over class-based views in Django. In the last video in the series, we went over function views, and now we'll rewrite our views using classes, and then after that, we'll go over some generic view classes and how they make writing views in Django much easier. So let's go ahead and get started with the basic view class to rewrite our previous views. So right here, you can see that I'm on in the views.py file, and I have all my previous function views and this comment out code here. We're not going to rewrite this one, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete these comments. It will still be available in the repository in the description under the previous code link if you'd like to see it, but in this video, we're not going to use that. So we have here is we have our index view and our sample form. So in Django, we can instead of using functions, we can use classes. And what we'll need to use, if I go ahead and clean up my imports real quick and import one more thing in here, we'll need to use another parent class that our class views will inherit from. So in the case of a really basic index page where we're doing everything ourselves, what we want to inherit from is from Django.views import view. And this view class right here that we're importing will be good for any sort of custom logic you need and when you need to, have full control over your view. And so first we'll start by going over how this works and how to use it. So first we'll create a class and we'll call this index, and we'll inherit from that view class that we imported. And now inside of here, we can go ahead and redo this logic right inside of this class. But we need to specify which requests we'll be handling. So a get request, a post request, or anything else. And so in this case, like a get, post, put, delete, whatever it is, we need to handle it right here. So what we can do is we can do a def get, pass in self, and pass in requests. And then from here, we can go ahead and copy all of our logic inside this get function. And every time we have a get request, so whenever we actually go to that page in our browser, this code will run. So I can go ahead and just copy all of this down here. We'll just copy that and we'll paste it inside this function. And I will uncomment all of this. And I'll fix the indents. And that should be good. So all we're doing here is we're getting an artist, in this case the first artist. We're passing it into our context so we can access it inside of our template. And then we'll go ahead and use the return render function, pass in the request, pass in our template name, and since we're using the default location, we pass in the name of the app, in this case it's catalog, and then the name of our page, which inside of our templates catalog folder, we have an index.html. So we'll render that page, we'll pass in the context, so we can actually use this artist value inside of our template. And then inside of our template, we put artist name, and then to access a variable inside of the Django template, you put in double curly braces, and we put artist.name to get the name of the artist, and this artist variable being what we passed in to our context right here, and displaying the name here. Okay, let's go ahead now and save this. And now we'll need to update our urls.py to handle a class-based view instead of a function-based view. And there's one change we'll need to make there. So we open up our music folder, go to URLs, and we don't have an index view anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that first. And instead what we have is just an index with a capital I. And we can use that index down here. But when we use class-based views, we'll need to add something to the end of our class when we call it here inside of our path. So on function-based views, we can just put the name of the function, that's it. But for a class, we need to put an @ underscore or a dot as underscore view with empty parentheses to be able to use this view. Otherwise, you'll get a weird error. So we go ahead and save that and make sure we change this to index.asView. We should now be able to use this index view on our home page. So I'm going to go ahead and run my server and test this out. Okay, so I have my server running here, and we'll go to port 8000. Try this over here. And we will jump into... And then on localhost port 8000, our view is still working. And it says function views on the top here. We can go ahead and change that real quick. We want to, it doesn't really matter. but just since we're not using function views anymore, we'll change this here to be class views. Okay, and you see our view is still working as before. So we're able to pretty easily rewrite our view to be a class. And using this view class is just a good way if you need to handle very custom logic where the other class views in Django wouldn't work. You can always use this view class to have full control of everything. Okay, now let's go ahead and take this kind of to the next level and use a GET request, but also a POST request. So same thing we're doing down here inside of our sample form function. So now I'm going to go ahead and delete this index function. It will still be available in the GitHub repository if you want to see it there, but we don't need it now here. So we'll go ahead and get rid of it. And I'll comment out this sample form function and we'll create another class. We'll call this one sample form and we'll inherit from our view class just as before. And now we'll need our get method first, but then we'll also need a post method. So let's start with the get method. So we'll do a get, def get, self, and request. And also, just as a side note, you might also want to pass in star args and star quargs. You don't always need to, but if you're getting a weird error, this might help fix that depending on what that error might be. Just something to consider if you're having trouble with this. You may want to pass in those as well. Anyway, so now inside of our get requests, we can go ahead and handle all of our get logic. So looking at this function down here, and our get request is everything in this else. So all we're doing is printing get and returning the template. I'm going to go ahead and grab both these lines here, just copy that and paste that inside of our get function. Uncomment that, and we should be good there. Now if I were to save this and then jump into my URLs, we'll go ahead and delete the sample form, because we don't have that anymore, and we'll add the new sample form class right there. And then on the sample form, once again, we'll put the name of the class .as_view, and you'll need to do that for every single class view. So that's just an extra thing we need to do there. And now we go ahead and go to the sample view, form page and see what it looks like. And you'll see here, it goes ahead and it loads the form like before. So we know our get request is working. Now we can go ahead and jump into our terminal and we'll see that it's logging get. So we know that all of the logic within the get method is working. Now if I try to type something here and hit submit, it fails because we haven't handled a post request. And when we're submitting this form, we're setting a post request. So to fix this, what we'll need to do is go back to our views and add another function to our view. So over here, we'll add a def post to handle post requests, pass in self and requests. I'm going to go ahead and pass in star args and star quargs. You may not need to, but I'll do that anyway here. And then inside of here, we can go ahead and handle all of this method, all this logic down here. So we don't need this if request.method equals post because that's already being handled by just which function is being called. So we can skip that. But everything below that, we're going to go ahead and copy. So we're going to go ahead and copy all of this and paste it right there. We'll then go ahead and uncomment this and this. And so what we're doing here, if we look at our form here, we have an input with a name value of first name. Instead of our views here, what we're doing is we're getting that value from the post request by getting the request, which is being passed in right here, .post.get, and then we can get the name of an input by typing in what's set to the name attribute inside of quotes inside the parentheses here. So in this case, this first name matches this right here. So we'll get that value, we'll print it to the screen, and then we'll just render this template again. So same as last time, just as a quick overview in case you didn't see that video, that is what that is doing. I'll go ahead and delete that and save that. Come back here, refresh the page. Let's go ahead and send a GET request now. So I type ABC, hit submit. It doesn't fail. It renders this page. If I go inside my terminal here, it renders ABC, which is what I passed in here. And anything I type in here will now be logged to the console test right there. So we know this is all working just as before. And that's a really basic way of how to handle a post request using this view class. Now that's great, and that's all you really need to be able to create views, but Django has lots of built-in generic views that make all of this a little bit easier. So what we can do, instead of having to write all of this logic ourselves every single time, we can use these different generic views. If I were to go into a browser here and just search for some view, so we'll do Django create view. You'll see here we have our generic editing views. And this goes over a few different ones. We have form view, which displays a form. We have create view, which displays a form and then handles some validation and saves the object. And then we have, where is it? Up here, update, updating an object, and delete, deleting an object. And there's also a list view, which we'll get into as well. So I'll just do Django list view, and you'll see our generic display views. We have a detail view and a list view. So we're going to go through a lot of these views, and we're going to see how they work and how they make writing these views a lot easier for most basic functions that you'll need to do. So let's start with this list view. So what this does is it takes a query set and lists out all the objects onto a page. Or it returns a group of objects to list out in a template, I should say. The template will actually list them all out, but the view will return a list of objects to display. And so this documentation goes over how to kind of set it up, but we're going to go ahead and go over that now. The links to these two pages will be in the description below if you want to go look at that and read into more of these. There's some more views that we won't go over here, but they all kind of work the same, and you should be able to figure out from this docs after watching the video of how to use them if you'd like to do so. So let's go ahead and create the list view. So first we'll create a class, and this will be called list artist. And with every generic view, we need to pass in that generic view class as a parent. In this case, it'll be called list view. Now we need to import that. So let's go ahead and do that now before I forget. Up here at the top, we will import from Django.views.generic, and in this case, for the list view, .list, import list view. And then down here, we can go ahead and create that list view. So the first thing we'll need to do for any generic view is pass in the model for the type of objects we're going to return. In this case, we'll return all the artists. And that's really, we could really go by just doing that and nothing else. And there's some defaults we can use inside of Django. So you'll see down here, the default name for these templates is the name of the object _ list. So let's go ahead and create that template now and list out all of the artist objects. So let's have our templates, let's have our catalog, we'll create a new file, we'll save this as artist _ list.html. And so I'll generate an HTML document, and we'll put this, call this just artists, and inside the body here, we'll go ahead and first put an H1 just to give it a title. We'll say artists, and then we'll go ahead and close it off. And now down here, we can loop through all of our objects and list out all of the artists here. So what we can do is we can do for artists in object _ list, which is what our view is returning. We can go ahead and close out this for loop right here. And now inside of here, we can write that logic for every single artist that it finds inside the list. So what we'll do is we'll create an H3. This H3 will have the artist name. So once again, to get a variable and display in the template, we'll use double curly braces. And then for any other sort of template syntax like for loops, we use curly brace and a %sign. But inside this double curly braces, I'll put artist.name. And we'll close off this H3. And then down here, we'll put a p tag, and then we'll go ahead and put the bio, artist.bio, and then close out the p tag. We'll save that. We'll go back here and we'll save our view, and we'll jump into our URLs and we'll add this view. So I'm gonna put this at /artist. So I'll do a path, and I'll do artists with a trailing slash, and that is where we'll go to for this view. And then I'll go ahead and put list artists .as _ view, and we'll need to go ahead and pass that or import that in up here. So list artists, just like that. We'll save that. Let's go ahead and try it out, see if I forgot anything or not. So we'll refresh this page. Oh, I forgot to put a comma at the end here. Put the comma there. Come back here, let's try this again. Okay. And we'll go to /artist. And you'll see here, it lists out all of our artists for us. Test artist 2, another test 2. So this goes through and grabs all of our artists and displays it onto the template. And you can see in our view, we did not have to write any logic for the query set, any logic for anything else. It just grabbed all of it, put it into the context for us. With the only thing we're doing is just setting the model being the artist inside the view. Now, this is great if you want to show every single item of one model object or one model class. Now, there are lots of different ways we can customize this view, though. So if we go back to documentation, you'll see a bunch of different ways we can add things to tests. We can add this get context data. And right here, they have all the method flowchart. You can override get query set to change the object list that's returned, the context object name, the context data. So these are things you may want to override for your specific use case. And if you click on it, it'll give you some information on it and what it needs to return or what it needs to do for it to work correctly. So let's go ahead and do a couple small customizations in this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to override two different static properties. So they have these methods, but they also have static properties you can override, and two of them being the template name and the context object name. So I'm going to go ahead and override both these right now. So first I'll put template underscore name equals, this will be catalog/artists.html. And what this will allow us to do is put a custom template name. So by default, it has to be artist underscore list in this case. But now if we override template name, we can rename that to be whatever we want. In this case, I called it artist. So I'll rename that to artist. And the next thing we'll override in this view is the context object name. And this will set this to artist. What this will allow us to do is go into our template and change object list to be a custom thing. In this case, it will be artists. And now we can go back here, build this page, and it still works just like it did before. So that allows us to add some customizations of how we're naming things inside of our view. And I'm not going to override the query set or anything like that. If you want to do that, that's also an option for you. But in this case, we'll keep it simple and we'll just override a couple basic properties. Okay, next let's go ahead and go on to a detail view. In a detail view, what it will allow us to do is go to a specific artist and display all the information about that artist on the page. So in this case, I'll probably only display the name and the bio, but this is kind of the page where you'd show everything. You'd show the name, the bio, their songs, and whatever else would all be on this page. But for this example, I'll just show these same fields, but it won't be a list. It'll be just one object itself. And in the URL, it'll be artist/a primary key. That primary key will match up with whatever artist is being displayed. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and write this view. So I'll create another class, and this will be a detail artist. This will inherit from the detail view. Now we need to go ahead and import this. So up here at the top, I'll go ahead and do a from Django.views.generic.detail import detail view. And then down here, once again, I can set the model like we'll do with all of our generic views. We'll set a model. In this case, we'll use the artist model again. And I'm going to go ahead and override the context object name. By default, it's object. But like we did in the previous list view, I'm going to go ahead and override that. So I'll do context object name, and that equals artist. And if we wanted to, we could override the template name, but I'm going to keep it the default for now, just to keep this simple. So we'll go ahead and create a new file. And for our detail view, as you can probably guess, this will be called artist_detail.html. I'm going to go ahead and generate an HTML template again, like that. And then I'll call this artist detail. And inside of our body here, we now have access to this artist variable. We can pull out all of the information. So in this case, I'll go ahead and just pull out the artist dot name, and we'll go ahead and pull out the p tag and pull out the artist.bio. I said this is all I was gonna show. Let's go and show one more thing just to make it a little different. I'll go ahead and show another p tag here, and this will be song count or something, and we'll show the song count. Artist dot I think it's just song underscore total. That's what it is. Song underscore total. Song underscore total. So I'll rename this to song total as well. And that will show another value there. Let's go ahead and save that. And now we'll go into our URLs to set this up. Now, so first we'll import this up here. So we'll import detail artist. And we'll go ahead and add another view here. This will be a path, and this will be artist / a primary key. So in Django, to pass in a variable into our URL, well, first by putting some less than and greater than key characters in. And now inside of here, we can set the type. In this case, this will be a number. So we'll put int, colon, and then the variable name. And the default variable for the primary key is just going to be pk. So we're going to stick with that here. And so what this will do is Django will we'll go to the artist / and then find the primary key and pass it into our template or pass it into our view to be used. And our detail view handles all of that for us. So we'll pass in the number we have here. We'll go into our detail artist view, and we'll automatically find the correct artist based off that primary key. So hopefully that makes sense. And then we'll go ahead and use our detail artist.as_view to use this view. So a lot of this gets handled for us this way, which makes things super easy. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'll go to 1, I guess. And then there's our test artist with our song total showing up right there. And I can change this by changing this number, and it now goes to different, now goes to different artists based on the number that's being passed in here. And Django automatically handles finding the correct artist based off that number using this detail view. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and write the whole thing with this other view class, but we have to handle getting a PK, finding an artist that matches that PK, kind of similar to how we did here. But in this case, we don't have to do that. So that makes it very easy on us. Okay, and on to our next view, which will be a create view. And this, like the name suggests, allows us to create a new object using a form. So what we can do is we can do a class, create artist. We will pass in our create view, pass in a model equaling artist. And what we can do here is first import that view. So from django.views.generic.create, .edit, import, create view. And with our create and with any sort of edit view, we need to pass in the model. We also need to pass in the fields we want to have in our form. So this view will automatically create a form for us, but we got to specify what fields we want. So in this case, I want every field, but I could go ahead and pass in a list of like name, comma, bio, every field I wanted. Or as a shortcut, if you want every field, we put quotes, double underscore, all, double underscore. And that will go and grab all of the fields. Now we can try this, but this won't work. And I'll show that here in a second. But first, let's set our URLs up so we can see where this will fail at. So first, we'll import our create artist view, create artist. And then we'll add that down here. So we'll do a path, artists, / create artist.as_view, add our trailing comma, save that. Now let's go ahead and try this out. Oh, I forgot to make the template. Let's go ahead and make the template first real quick, and then we'll see where our form will fail at. So we'll create a new form here. And once again, we could override the default, but I'm not going to do that here. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this as artist_form.html. And that is our default name. And as you can see here, if you create the wrong template name, it'll tell you it does not exist, and it'll tell you the default value it's looking for. In this case, it's artist_form. So if you ever get stuck, that's one way you can figure that out. Okay, once again, I'll generate a HTML template. And with our create view, this is very, very easy to do. What we need to do is go ahead and create a form, set the method equaling the post. Inside this form, we'll need to add in a couple things. First, we'll add in the CSRF token, which, in case you're not familiar, this is a thing required for every post form in Django. All you have to do is put our curly braces and our percent signs, and then put CSRF_token. So it's just an extra line you need to make sure you have in there if you're using a post form in Django. Now we have a form variable we can use by default from our view. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is do form.as_p to use that form right there, and then we'll go ahead and create a submit button. So input type equaling submit, value equaling submit. We'll go ahead and save that. So this form value is what we get from our create view automatically with all of our fields that we specified inside of our view. Now when I reload that page, you'll see we have all of these forms here. This does not look very pretty, and you can make it look better. You can use something like crispy forms, which I've used in other videos before. And if that's something you want to do, you can go ahead and just search Django crispy forms. And here's a link here. If you want to go ahead and do that, just Google that, and this will tell you all about how to make the forms look very good in Django. Okay, anyway. Here we have our information, all of our fields. So the first things first, these two fields won't work right now because we haven't set up the logic for our file uploads. So leave those blank, and we're not going to talk about those in this video. We'll get to that in a future video, but that's not the focus here, so we're going to ignore it for now. Let's go ahead and try to create something real quick. So I'll just create something super simple real quick. And this is not going to work, but I want to show where it fails at and why. So we come here and hit submit. Oops, I gotta put .com. And there is some built-in validations you can see there that if something's not at the correct, doesn't look correct, it will throw an error before it submits, which is very helpful to have, by default. Once I hit submit, it now throws this error, improperly configured at artist/create, no URL to redirect to. And tells you here, either provide a URL or define get absolute URL method on the model. So there's two ways we can handle the redirect after we submit a form using the create view. We can either set the URL inside of our create view, or we can set this get absolute URL method on the model. So we could go into our models here and set a dev get absolute URL and give it a redirect URL there. But since we're focusing on our views here, I'm going to go ahead and make the change by overriding a function inside of our create view. So what I'm going to do is inside this view here, I'm going to go ahead and create a method, and we'll call it get success URL. And this is important that we call it exactly this because we're overriding the parent method, and so we need to make sure it's called exactly this. But what we can do here is we can go ahead and return and then use the reverse function to go to a named URL. So first things first, let's go and type this out. So I'll type in return, reverse, and I want to go to the index view. So first things first, we need to go ahead and import this reverse. So up here at the top, we'll go ahead and do from Django.urls import reverse. And we're reversing to, well, we pass an index. And right now, nothing's set to this index name, so this will have no idea where to go to. But what we can do is go to our URLs, we can come down to our index page here, and we can add another argument in this path function call here. So we'll do a name equals index. So now we set the name of this path to be index. We can now use that to redirect to that page when we submit the form. So now this index name here matches this index name on our path. So that's how it's finding the view there. Hopefully that makes sense. If we save that, now I come back to this form, come back here, reload this page. Now we'll go ahead and create another one. And actually, I think it will already create that. It just will fail on the redirect, so we'll have to give it a new email. So I'll do test 1 2 3 4 this time. And we'll go ahead and just set a few values there. And now it redirected to our index page. If we were to go to /artists, you'll see we have a test 1 2 3 4 showing up. It did create. We also have this test 1 2 3, which it also created that. Even though it failed, it will still create the object. So just a heads up there. But we do have our new object being created just like that without having to do anything really special with our view other than setting this redirect on it. And that is it for a really basic create view. Once again, this is also very simple, and you can see why these views are so useful. They require such a little lines of code. Like I've done this one in 3 lines, this one in 2, this one just 4, including this function. So it's very easy to do and very quick to write views this way. Let's go ahead now and go to our next one, which will be an update view. So in this one, we create a new object. Let's say we want to go back and update that one. So at test 1 2 3 4, if we want to go back and update that one, how would we do that? Well, we can use this update view to do so. So I'll go ahead and do update artist, update view, and once again we'll set the model equaling to artist, and we'll set the fields again. In this case, once again, it will be set to double underscore all, and once again we need to go ahead and give it a redirect, but this redirect will be a little bit more complicated. So let's go ahead and first create our function get success URL, pass in self, and what we want to do here is do a return reverse, and we want to go ahead and name another URL. So what we want to do here is redirect to the artist we just updated, to that detail page for that artist. So instead of our URLs, we'll find this detail artist view. Let's go ahead and give it a name. I'll go ahead and call this we'll just call it artist-detail. I mean, you can call this whatever you want. Just gotta make sure you name it correctly in your reverse function inside of the redirect. But in this case, I'll just do artist-detail. I think that works fine. And then once again, we'll go ahead and pass in artist-detail as a name. But we also need to give them the PK so it knows which artist detail page to go to. And what we can do here is we can pass in a quarks value. So this is equal to a Django or a Python dictionary. We set a key of PK and sets it to be self.object.pk. So the self.object will be what we just updated. And of course, we can grab the PK off that object to pass it in as a kwarg for this view. So it has a PK value that it can use to put in the URL to redirect to the correct page. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and try this out now. Actually, first I need to go ahead and add it to my URLs. So we'll do an update artist. Down here below our create artist view, we'll create another path. This will be artist / int :pk like before. And then we'll go ahead and go to update, I guess. It can be really anything you want, but we'll do update. And we'll do update artist.as_view and add our and comma, save that. Let's go ahead now and test this out. Looks like we have an error. Oh, I forgot to import update view. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. So up here, this is also an edit view. So it will come in from the same, import statement being generic.edit. Okay, we'll save that. We'll come back in here, refresh the page. Now this is working. Let's go to artist / let's try 6. That takes us to 1 2 3 4 artists. Let's go ahead and update the bio on that artist. So I'll go to /update. And looks like we have an error. And that would be because I forgot to put the parentheses in the as view. You probably caught that. I just forgot that. So, okay. So now we'll go ahead and refresh that page. And here we go. And the nice thing about this view is you can see it already pre-populates all of the current data inside of the form. So I can go inside the bio here and just do something like updated bio and hit submit. And you see it redirects us back to the artist /6 page. And now we have the bio updated. If I were to go back here, you can now see we have our updated bio showing up for our test 1 2 3 4 object. And so just like that, we went ahead and created an update view. And what you'll notice here is that we didn't have to create a new template for this. The nice thing about this update view and this create view is that by default, they share the same template. Of course, you can override that if you'd like to, but in our case, we're able to go in here and just create this one template and use it for both of our views, since we're using the same thing really. It's just a form being displayed. And that is really it for this update view. Let's go ahead and go to one final view now, which will be our delete view. So down here, I'll create a class and we'll call this delete artist. And we'll pass in delete view right here. And then once again, we'll pass in a model of artist. And we're doing something a little different this time for our get success URL. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and import this delete view. This is also considered an edit view. So it can come from the same import right here. So I can go ahead and just add it to this end of this line here with our create update views already. Okay. And now we could go ahead and do the same thing here with this get success URL, but there's another way you can do this as well, which might be a little less verbose, I guess. And we go ahead and just change this property on this class. And so what we'll do is set a variable equal to success underscore URL. And then this will be equal to, it's pretty much the same as reverse, but we can't use reverse in this case. Since we're not inside of a function here, we need to use something called reverse lazy. Otherwise, you'll get a reverse not found error. And that is because class attributes are evaluated on the import. And at the time when this is being used, the reverse function will be not found. So it won't be available to us. So instead, we have to use a different function that works pretty much the same way, but just a different name. In this case, it's verse underscore lazy. So if you're getting a weird error of reverse not found, go ahead and just try using reverse lazy, and that might fix the issue for you. But then we can go ahead and use this the same way by passing in a template name. In this case, we'll go back to the home page after we delete the artist. And now with this delete view, we do need to create a template, and this is like a delete confirm page. And so by default, this is called the name of the model, in this case is artist, underscore confirm underscore delete.html. And of course, like the other ones, you can go ahead and override that if you'd like to. I don't want to do that here, so I'm not going to. But what I can do is I can go ahead and now give it a little prompt here and say, are you sure you want to delete this, instead of a form? And if they submit the form, then we know we can go ahead and delete that object. So create a form. Once again, a method equaling post. Close off that form value right there. And once again, since we're doing a post request, instead of a form, we need to go ahead and put our CSRF token. So CSRF underscore token. And then we'll go ahead and put a p tag here to give it some text, and we'll say, are you sure you want to delete? And in quotes, we'll go ahead and put a variable. So once again, we have access to the object variable, which is the object we're about to delete. So I'll take the object and get the name of it to say, are you sure you want to delete? And then display that name of whatever artist we're on. Let's go ahead and close off that p tag. And then below this, we'll go ahead and put a confirm input. So we'll do an input type equaling submit and a value equaling confirm. So now we'll say, are you sure you want to delete this? It'll be a confirm button. If they hit confirm, then we'll go ahead and delete the page. Let's go and add that to our URLs. So we'll import there at the top. We'll come down here and we'll do a path of artists / int :pk / delete. And this will be delete, not delete view, delete artist. And do a dot underscore as view, like that, and put a trailing comma. Okay, let's go and test this out real quick. So I'll refresh this page. Looks like we're getting an error. Let's double check that. Oh, I forgot to import and reverse lazy. Okay, so up here at the top of our view, we can go and import that function. And it comes from a slightly different import. So instead of django.urls, we'll need to import this from django.urls.base import reverse lazy, like that. Okay. Let's go and try this out again. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and delete this another test. So that's 1, 2, 3. So we should be able to go to artist 3/delete. And I will say, are you sure you want to delete another test? I'll hit confirm, and then it redirects back to the test artist. Now, if I were to go to list out all of our artists, you'll see that another test is not there. Another test 2 is there, but another test is now gone. So we correctly deleted that object. And it is important to note, I'm pretty sure if you have an error during that process, if something fails, if you forget to set your success URL or something else isn't set correctly and it fails, I don't believe it actually deletes the object in that case. So that might be something to double check, but I think it has to go through successfully for it to actually delete. But in this case it did, and so it deleted that object from the database for us. And now we create all of the basic CRUD functionality using all these basic views right here. We use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 views to set all that up. Most of them only relying on a couple lines of code. So you can see how powerful and easy it is to set up views this way in Django. And really, this is probably the best way to do it if all you need is sort of the basic functionality. And if you need more custom functionality, you can go ahead and do something like this index page where we use this view class and we handle all the logic for our get, or the sample form where we handle all the logic for our get and for our post. So hopefully that's a good overview of how to use class-based views and hopefully make writing views in Django a little easier for you. And that is really it for this video. All the code will be in the description below. We will come back in the future and we'll go through more parts of Django in this series. But for now, we'll stop here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.